I've come to accept now that games are just going to take 4 to 6 years to make and cost hundreds of millions of dollars. The days of me getting multiple Halo and Gears of War games in one generation are just over. But what is worse and hurting me is seeing these chasing of trends, like a recent thing of Concord, where they attempted the multiplayer shooter formula of hero shooters, but it failed and was shut down immediately. More games just need to follow what Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel did, the perfect peak of live service video games. What I really want is the industry to figure out these inflating budgets and development time to maybe bring back those days of old and just calm down so one project doesn't take what was once 3 video games back in the day. Over the years, I've been chasing that, these breadcrumbs of indies thriving, games like recently Animal Well, something that was made by one person and reviewed critically well, but probably not going to be a mainstream staple. Even more bigger than that, Toys for Bob, doing something like developing Crash Bandicoot, apparently in 4 years. But most of all, Nintendo. Nintendo has been this prime example of being able to constantly release something in these bigger IPs of theirs pretty much every other year, if even that. The rest of the industry just can't seem to follow it, aka like the other 2 platforms, PlayStation and Xbox. And here we are today with this game, Astro Bot, the new big first-party game from PlayStation that is giving that other breadcrumb. It's reviewing phenomenally well. It's the highest reviewed game of the year, and people were buzzing about it on social media over the weekend and on release weekend, basically. But even though all that is happening, and it might even get some quality nominations and shout-outs towards the end of the year when all is said and done, I still don't feel like I can accept it. The idea that there is hope to bring back that formula, that we could get a game from that franchise every couple years. Unless Astro Bot sells astronomically well, that was an accidental pun. It's just going to be chalked up as another amazing game. Do we think games like Elden Ring and whatnot are actually going to impact the industry? Are they going to follow that trend? We have to wait and see, but I'm kind of pessimistic. It's just going to kind of been there, done that in terms of the grand scheme of things. That's what I thought. But then I saw this article from Jason Schreier on Bloomberg that I dare say has really given me some hope in this whole thing. PlayStation's Astro Bot is a model for the video game industry. The critically acclaimed game is set to be a breakout hit, but was made by a team of only 60 people. And in this era, even from PlayStation itself, we look to a recent release, Horizon Forbidden West. It is gorgeous. It is huge. It's an open world. It kind of set a new bar visually for games. And it's that realistic type graphic thing that just the industry assumes that the audience has matured to. And it was developed over the course of like 4 or 5 years at least by hundreds of people. So we look to this, Astro Bot, a game that is not open world, a game that is not realistic graphic people, and a game that was not developed by hundreds, it was developed by dozens. I didn't think that was still possible today. I knew, that they were a smaller team maybe under PlayStation, but they were a team that was first party. We just saw Concord, a game that was in development for like 8 years and had hundreds of millions that went into it in terms of the deal, development, and everything. But it failed. So when I see this article of just 60 people developing this game, I'm intrigued. And then the news came. This game was developed. This game that is reviewing the highest of the year for 2024, it was developed over 3 years. I'm seeing some say like 3.5 years. And yes, Astro's Playroom, the kind of tech demo that comes with the PS5, was kind of the foundation for this game. So maybe it would have taken a bit over 4, maybe more. But regardless, it had that base model and produced a full-blown game within the next 3-ish years. It really just gets my brain turning. people figured it out. When I look into these articles and behind the scenes and interviews of Team Asobi, they had this direction of, here's what our team does. We have the people that aren't even the level designers submit ideas, and we just think, would that be fun to play? And we build off of that, and kind of it adds this feel of the whole studio collectively doing this together and having this unified vision. We also see more in the article that a lot of these people here have been around for many years. We have that rapport and connection with each other. And because of that, it kind of just helps to make things flow. That's another thing we really don't see anymore. We see and have heard things like my beloved Halo Infinite. It had hundreds of people working on it, maybe even 1,000. They were divided. They had so many different ideas on so many different branches, simulating so many different versions of the game that they couldn't all agree on something. They also contracted out so many people to make the game. And that's not a situation that's unique to Halo Infinite alone. That's something throughout the industry. But you see this very close and focused Team Asobi with 60 people, with many people there that have been around since the founding, make this game together. And it was done in 3 years by a really modest-sized team. And as much as I hate layoffs, it makes me think about how making some of these studios smaller and more focused might actually produce good. We look at, like, from Xbox Obsidian Entertainment. Somehow they have released a game like every year to every other year that reviews well, but that's because they have all these various sized teams working on that specific game together. It could be a group of 13, it could be a group of 80, but regardless, they have these focused teams working on that project together. And I wonder if Astro Bot is the thing that can shift things. What if it not only sells well, which I did the math, and using my video that I did about Xbox Game Pass, it seems like the development budget for this game could have been basically around $30 million for a team that size for that development cycle. That would take just over 500,000 sales. But if it sells over 1 million, that will hopefully recoup all the marketing costs. So if it just gets in the single-digit millions, then it will make a profit, and hopefully that will pique eyes. But then not only if it gets nominated for Game of the Year, if it wins Game of the Year, can you imagine the ripple effects of that? A game that was developed in 3 years by 60 people with the budget, 50 million or less, probably. Again, that is just based off of some math or whatever I was doing. What could happen from that? And Astro Bot did have a model that the rest of the industry can really learn from. Astro Bot is a phenomenal game, but I think we need to pay attention to what it represents. A game that isn't filled with side quests left and right. A game that doesn't force you to play it every day. A game that isn't having paid expansions and DLCs and whatnot. A game that isn't launching in early access. It is just a straight up release. Something that Nintendo's been doing to printing money, and now PlayStation's doing it. And can we see projects like this emerge? Can we see the industry get a potential grip? Do I actually have hope? Astro Bot is giving me dangerous hope. Hope that the industry can move away from these ballooning budgets of hundreds of millions of dollars. An industry of a really focused team that has one unified vision. Hope that we can get multiple entries of a franchise within one gen. I see hope that the video game industry can rebuild itself, thanks to this cute little bot. But also, I really don't want 3D platformers to die. That is something else that we just don't see come from PlayStation, Xbox, and all these other contenders. It's just that is something that only Nintendo has done. We don't see Xbox doing anything with Banjo. We don't see PlayStation bringing back Sly Cooper or other things. I just wonder if this could help that cause too. I don't know. Could it? Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart and Psychonauts 2 were the last time we had something this close. And there's sales numbers for those, but we have to wait and see what happens for Astro Bot. So make sure you subscribe to find out what happens next, and especially for the Game Awards this year, because I think that will be a big moment that we kind of find out.